What's up, guys?
You guys already answered? Good. Okay. Questions for Coach Grinch? You guys are
Coach, I know last week was tough with Coach Clark's situation, but I know you guys were able to get on the field a little bit from a defensive standpoint. What did you identify maybe after the first two games that you needed to work on and hone in on during the bye week?
Well, at first, just start with Coach Clark. I mean, it is a reminder to all of us that your work can change in a blink of an eye. You know, you're in the office with a guy one day, and the next day, the impact on his life, his family, and everything else. And I just obviously prayers and well wishes, and it becomes a whole lot more real when you walk past his office every single day. So I pray that in time everything works out for Coach and his family. Relative to last week, the answer is you got to work on everything. I mean, I know it's a bad answer, but it's the truth. Regardless if you get the outcomes in the first 2 weeks, or you don't get the outcomes in the first 2 weeks, it doesn't make your season or break your season. And the end goal is to make sure that you aren't simply what you are in those first 2 weeks. There's a reason you practice. There's a reason you put the time in. Obviously, you've got some game data and some bullet points that become a lot more real once you do it on Saturday. But beyond that, we got to continue to get better in all facets. But you find a way to tackle because you don't get a chance to tackle on Saturday, so you don't miss those opportunities. So you kind of create some of those, and then you try to get a head start on the opponent to the best of your ability as well.
What have you seen from North Carolina? I'm sure you've watched plenty of film of them over the bye week, but what do you see of their offense, and what kind of stands out to you about what they're able to do?
Yeah, very, very multiple. I mean, the thing that you note is what you see in game 1 is not necessarily what you see in game 2, which is not necessarily what you see in game 3. And so, you can't get it's so locked into just what the film is showing you. You got to trust from a rule standpoint. Whatever they give you ultimately this Saturday that you can handle and line up in. Certainly there's some commonalities. You got a quarterback that can drive the ball downfield and beat you with his feet as well, which is always something. First thing you look at defensively is do you got a guy that scrambles to throw and a guy that scrambles to run? Is their quarterback run game in that? So you got all those facets in addition to several personnel groupings, both big and small. So a lot for us to handle. This is our first opportunity as a unit to watch a lot of the opponent. The first 2 weeks, good or bad, you're doing a lot in the way of, okay, these are our rules, trust them. How they line up is how we line up, and then we just got to trust it and let it rip. And then now we're transitioning. We have a 3-game study, and one of the conversations with the guys is making sure that we're not memorizing plays. And those are things you just think about when you got such a every year now, things that you're learning when you got a unit that you're working with for the first time, and all these guys are new, is how they prepare, and all those things. So this will be the first week that, yes, we'll study it, and yes, we'll take certainly some stock in what we're seeing, but then recognize that it could be a completely different set come Saturday.
What kind of challenges could a Bill Belichick offense pose you?
Yeah, I mean, I think respect is very real, and obviously there's not a coach that's ever coached the game that deserves any more respect than Coach Belichick and the thing that he has done over a long period of time. You have to make sure that that doesn't turn into a fear factor. Where he's smarter than us. He is. Accept it, move on, and then run your call to the best of your ability, play with physicality and effort, and then do it again the next snap. But again, just the multiplicity. They know how to attack you. Coach Kitchen does a tremendous job of doing it a long time as well. Again, so the respect factor is real, and then in the end, you got to make sure that guys are ultimately running the our calls and attaching again the physicality and effort to it that give you a chance to even in those moments where they out scheme you, that you can knock it down and survive the down and move on.
How do you evaluate the pressure your defensive line has gotten on the opposing quarterback?
Yeah, really hard to evaluate up until this point, and which is okay. It's just the reality of it. And we haven't seen much in the way of pass game. We've seen a lot of runs in the first couple of weeks. Other years is the exact opposite. What you don't want to do is create an evaluation that's not there. Kind of a mythical evaluation, or you get such a small sample size, you can use any example. Obviously, football is the one we're talking about, where you get a small sample size and a guy goes 4 for 4 or something like that in a baseball game. He's the greatest hitter of all time, or 0 for 4 and all of a sudden he stinks, type of thing. And so the same thing is, we've got some pressure at times, which is good. But again, the evaluation kind of continues that way. We like our guys, without question. We can see some at their best, kind of what we think their impact can be on the game. But vertical is still out, and we'll see as we go and see a little bit more passes, which we will this weekend.
What do you see from North Carolina's offensive line then?
Yeah, I think you see some max protection opportunities. Makes it very difficult for even when you bring pressure, for instance, for defensive guys to get home on a quarterback. Then you got a quarterback that keeps things anti-fragile offensively because he can scramble and extend plays in that. They're willing to get him out of the pocket. There is some RPO, so you kind of have every layer from a pass game standpoint. And so from that, makes it very difficult to say, okay, this is how you attack it, or you say, well, this is the weakness. Well, there might be a weakness if they have 5-man protection, but if it's 6-man protection, that weakness doesn't exist. And then you can guess right, and the quarterback scrambles and goes makes a play. So it'll be a major challenge for us to get home. We know that, and then maybe if not equally as challenges to keep him in the pocket and kind of squeeze and condense. Sometimes pushing the pocket and keeping a guy in the pocket is sometimes just as effective as actually knocking him down.
What North Carolina struggled on third down, particularly for this first 3 weeks. What are you noticing on film, maybe on early downs, to kind of get them into those obvious situations?
Well, and that's just it. I think generally speaking is when you're talking about third down success rate, you got to look at the number next to the 3. Has a tendency to be a determining factor, not the ultimate factor, but a determining factor where the offense is, executing a positive rate versus the defense. But commitment to the run game. If you can put yourself in a position that you can, I wouldn't say necessarily squash all runs, but making sure that you're not giving up the explosives. You're putting them in a situation that to your point, right? It's a lot of times third down has everything to do with first and second down, and making sure that we're sound in those moments, and making sure also one of the things we talk to the guys all about is we say change the math at times. They're going to do, when they do a nice job in their run game, of making it very difficult to have a plus number defensively. Whether they create that with an RPO situation, or they do that with surfaces, they play with extra tackles in the game as well, going back to week 1. And so, one of the things is, the ability to change the math. One of theirs, one of theirs doesn't block 2 of ours. That's math in a real negative sense. But even if we don't have the plus numbers in some of the run game, a guy thrown off making a tackle, when that's happened, as with all offenses, makes it very difficult to sustain and put yourself in a position third down wise where you can be in a position to execute. And so, and that's something I just think as we go through the first couple of weeks, we got to see more of that. Guys getting off blocks, and maybe the numbers aren't in our favor in some of that stuff, but it ends up being what looks like a positive play offensively turns into a positive play defensively.
Coaches obviously kind of take from the football world around them, and to some respect. With Coach Belichick coming into the college game, how have you seen the pro game kind of influence offenses in the college game, and even defenses in the college game as the 2 games become a little bit more similar?
Yeah, I think it has been interesting. I think in as you talk through spread offense and tempo, and way back when I was with Coach Kelly, Coach Dawson, and myself, actually with Coach Kelly back in New Hampshire before anybody knew who Chip Kelly was, and it was going 1,000 miles an hour every single day in practice, and we're trying to figure it out defensively and everything else. They're going back 20 some odd years, but what you saw, and I give credit to Chip and a number of other coaches as well, but you probably saw a little bit in the way to trickle up in terms of what was happening offensively in the quarterbacks and the RPO game. You can't run RPOs in the NFL, but press a pause button on that because they just do it a different way. I think for a long period of time you saw a lot of that. I think with the use of tight ends, the use of wide receivers, you kind of see with the Rams a little bit, wide receivers that are kind of in tight end positions and stuff like that. Well, there's been a trickle down effect from the NFL ranks back down to college, and you just see a little bit more in the way of managing clock as opposed to just every week, just extreme tempo. So I do. I think there's quite a bit of that as you're seeing. I think the same thing defensively. I think the biggest thing is as you go through that, short of having just elite talent on the defensive line where they can make everything right. Short of that, you got to play with 11. And that sounds stupid, but it's the reality. You can't have half-field defenders just hanging out or post players just hanging out, defending one type of play. When offensively, they could be, a quarterback could run it, he could scramble, he could hand it off, and the play off the play, and that jet sweep, he could hand it off, add a gap, and all those things. So I think from that standpoint, you're seeing both offensively and defensively more commonality probably than historically.
How important do you think winning the turnover battle this week and getting your offense more possessions will be to winning this game?
It's not one of one. It's 1A, it's 1B, it's 1C, it's 1D. We do the study every week, the impact of takeaways and turnover margin, both in the NFL and in college football. I think in the first 2 weeks, Power 4 football. I know you do quote me. That's what this podium is about. But I think it's about 90% if you want to turnover battle in Power 4 football in the first 2 weeks. I think there's only been 10 losses. I think in the NFL, I think it's 71% winning percentage. That doesn't account for who your quarterback is, rushing yards, passing yards, anything else. It's just it's an amazing stat. And as we tell the guys, if a different stat contributed the way that did, then we talk about that more. But we're going to fight for it. It's easy to say. They're going to try to keep it away from us and all those things. But it's a predictor, man. And so we got to find a way to get some.
You talk on the sample size being very small, but with 2 weeks under your belt in this bye week, where do you think that the UCF's defense stands in their identity and going into this big game?
Yeah, I don't think you can rubber stamp as you say an identity at this point. I think the challenge each week is the challenge each week. What you don't want to do is prepare, work your tail off, tell the guys how important Saturday afternoon is. Then you get the outcome, and then you come off of getting the outcome and say, well, that didn't really matter, and so dismiss it. So we're not doing that. But there's the same token is, we respect for the opponents that we played, respect to our players that they played the way that they did, and there's some positives, and we certainly got the outcomes that we wanted, and individual plays that we're disappointed with. But I think that's just something that comes over time as you're getting into both conference play moving forward, and then obviously the lead opponent this week, another Power 4 team, and it's sample size is real, and you have to make sure that you are honest about that as you go through the season. So the verdict's still out.
Small sample size, but how would you evaluate linebacker play through 2 games? I know you opted not to play, Lewis after the targeting, but a guy like Cole Kozowski, like he's making the most of his reps. Is a guy like that maybe earning more playing time?
Yeah, and we had every intention of getting Lewis in. That was just the way the score was at that point. It was just kind of a responsible thing to do, give some other guys some opportunities. So we'd be excited to get him. He was disappointed. I mean, he still want to go out there, but be excited to get him back this week. And you mentioned Cole. I mean, it's a guy that I guess every conversation there's going to be, or every conversation you all with as coaches, it's somehow circles back to the transfer portal. But he's one of those guys that you turn on the video and you say, well, no, we're not going to take a guy from Colgate. And you turn on the video again and you say, all right, we're not going to take a guy from Colgate, and then he's making 140 tackles a year type of thing. It's like, well, maybe we should take a look at this guy from Colgate. And he's a guy that quite frankly, in the first couple of weeks, he's done what he's done over the course of his entire career. I mean, there's one football out there, and he has a tendency to go find it and knock it down and tackle it. So been pleased with that. And then that's a position, Jaden McDonald and Kelly Lawson, and it's one of those that you got to be able to. It's a very difficult position to play. Talking about what offenses do, and they're involved in all aspects of it, from run game and pass game, and having several guys that we feel like can go into the game and be productive has been a positive. So small sample size, but please.
Alex, you've coached in some games with lots of hype surrounding them, been around that. What's it like to keep your players maybe kind of focused this week when you've got so much attention nationally and everything focused on Belichick's return and things like that? How do you kind of keep everyone making sure they're kind of even keel, not too much into?
Yeah, no, I think it's it's very real. I mean, one of the things we talk to the guys about is that the distraction diminishes you, so you can be excited. And you know, there's times you got to get yourself up. There's times you got to calm yourself down, and all those things. And that has a tendency to kind of ebb and flow over the course of the work week leading up to the game. It'll be the same thing, you know, Saturday game day. You know, I remember playing for you know, my college coach back at Mount Union Division III school, and Coach Karras, all-time winners coach, and I mean, just outstanding. But I'll never forget him coming in the locker room. I think it was a playoff game, and saying, "Well, boys, we lost another warm-up," you know, because they're hooting and hollering on the other side, and that just sticks with me. You know, it's still going to come down to you can go fire and brimstone in the locker. It's still going to come down to execution and all those things. So, and one of the things we talked about the guys actually this morning. You know, we're not looking for entertainment, we're looking for execution. So we have to make sure that our roles as it applies to Saturday game days aren't the outside noise and all that. And that's, you know, on the same note, that's why you want to play Power 4 football and you want to play in those games. And so you want to recognize that, but then you got to be able to put blinders on when you put blinders on. So again, it's on the practice field during the work week, and it's the same thing on game day. And then the final thing we talk to the guys about all the time is it's focus and refocus. You know, no human's able to focus for 3 hours. I say blinders on, but the blinders have the tendency to come off. You know, something happens, emotional reaction. You know, you thought a game was going a certain way, and it goes a different way. Or you know, one of the things we talk to the guys about: don't miss the good stuff. You know, if you get wrapped up, oh, you thought that was a good play, and the crowd's going nuts. You know, the dance of being home and all those things. Man, wait for the you haven't seen it yet, because the good stuff's coming. You know, and conversely, everyone wants to execute and get a 3 and out that first set of downs and everything else, but sometimes you hit a home run after you strike out, type of things. Don't miss the good stuff. And so, again, it's easy to talk about, you know, but you know, this will be our first kind of opportunity as a group, kind of going into a game that way. And so, yeah, try to lead them through it, and also from a coaching standpoint, yeah, you got to make sure that you're practicing what you're preaching.
Bounce right off of that, marquee matchup, national TV, opportunity to improve to 3-0. Does this game feels like it has potential for a statement game, and maybe the stakes are just a little bit higher? Yeah,
I just and again, this is just me. I've been involved in too many games over 23 years to kind of fall into that trap on either side of it. The doom and gloom when you don't get the outcomes, or the euphoria when you get one. You know, it's the next one, and it's big. There's no doubt about it, and we're excited. We're thrilled. Again, that's. You know, when you're telling guys to come play for you, and you know, these guys are making decisions, and you know, they want to play on the stage, man, and we're going to provide one for them on Saturday, and I know the crowd will be outstanding. We've actually had a great crowd, considering, you know, weather delays and stuff like that. You know, I wouldn't have gone the last 2 weeks if I was. I mean, just reality of it. I said it'll be a friends and family game, and I'd go out there, and then so that just speaks to UCF, and so I'm laughing about it, but that's a kudos to the fans here. But I know it'll be rocking, and it'll be awesome and all those things. But you fight for the outcome, and then you work for the next one.
The small sample size we talked about, the first 2 weeks, how much of your defense would you characterize as like base or vanilla? And how have you used the bye week to get these guys on the same page to maybe start running more exotic things as you get ready for conference play?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of everything. I mean, from a competitive standpoint, you know, don't want to, you know, okay, well, now this is the stuff we're going to be running this weekend type of thing. But certainly, just the way the games have gone, we've been able to be a little bit more base in some scenarios and some situations. Now, on the same token, you go back to week 1, we're fighting, scratching, clawing to get a win in the fourth quarter. Believe me, we weren't sitting on our hands and holding calls for this one type of thing. But certainly last week, or 2 weeks ago, there weren't as many opportunities to do some of those things. And so we want to be multiple. We absolutely do. We want to put these guys in position to you know, wreak some havoc in the backfield from a front standpoint, and also mixed coverages on the back end. And so without question, we won't be holding anything back come Saturday. And in the same sense as, you know, we do want to be sound, simple, repeatable, and adaptable. So we want to ask these guys to do the things they've been practicing. So it'll be another opportunity to kind of build those cumulative reps that we had in the first couple weeks in the bye week, and then have better execution come Saturday.